Oh, this episode was, as ever, brought to you by our wonderful backers over at patreon.com/cinemaswirl. If you're after more Swirl content, then that's the place to go. $5 backers get instant access to every episode of our exclusive bonus monthly show, Cinema Swill, where Kevin and I review some utterly awful, weird movies. For our 32nd episode, we just watched and reviewed Steven Seagal's On Deadly Ground. Want to hear what we think of Steven Seagal? Then why not head on over to patreon.com/cinemaswirl. You'll get all the episodes straight away in your own little podcast feed. It's great. All right, let's get swirling.
Cinema Swirl! There was an old woman who lived in some glue. It's episode number 82. Hello once again, it's me, your old pal, Cowboy Kevin, romping through the auto dealership of Hollywood, glancing at all the incredibly expensive cars bracket movies that my OTP has not seen. It's Sam Chaplin. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. I feel suitably 2000'd up. I feel like I'm having a great time back here in the noughties.
The naughties. Now, far be it from us here on our very naughty podcast to make everyone immediately feel old, but there was some pushback from me with this vote because I refuse to accept that the naughties is like an era, because it was only like, no.
20 years ago it started.
No!
The passing of time!
I don't like that. I was told that if I played by the rules, that time would bend to my will, and it is not. And I can't look at a clock without fucking glowering at it these days at this point. And I feel it's in the hands of the likes of us, Sam, now, because we grew up in the 2000s. Those were our prime years, by which we mean we were teenagers and miserable.
We're naughty boys. What can I tell you? We're absolutely naughty boys.
And it is up to us to mould the clay of the nostalgia of the noughties, because I feel the noughties is a very, very nebulous time that seems to be only defined by Juicy Couture tracksuits and Limp Bizkit, and nothing else is defined about the noughties.
Both of those things are back.
They're back, baby!
Which is wild to me.
And better than ever. Thank you, TikTok, for bringing them both back into our lives. Sam, what was the vote? What were the options? Or what was the general reaction?
We were talking big franchises of the noughties, all right? And the reaction was overwhelmingly for the film that has been chosen for this one. Won by a landslide, the Fast and the Furious franchise. Now, these franchises, although Fast and the Furious was the one that started earliest, these have all tailed off into the tens and into the enties. The 20s.
The enties?
What are they called now? The 20s. The 20s. Didn't need to miss off the tour from that. But we had The Fast and the Furious, the first of the Fast and Furious franchise. We had Twilight, the first of the Twilight franchise. And we had Transformers, the first of the most recent Transformers series.
Fast and Furious, that's still going. Twilight ran out of ideas, hit the dust, see you later, bye.
Yeah.
And are they still making Transformers movies? Or are they still sitting in a dock in Michael's Bay? Like, are those still going?
That's one of those ones where I have no idea whether it's still in the same, succession of films as it was originally back in 2006 or 7, or whether it's been rebooted.
Yeah, there's been a soft or a hard reboot in there somewhere. Very much, it still feels like the threat of a Michael Bay Transformers movie still hangs above us.
Yeah.
Still looms very, very large. Now, The Fast and the Furious, which has kind of lasted throughout the years, seems to have reinvented itself as a much more popular franchise that I've not seen any of that. I've only seen this one.
Right, okay.
All I'll say is my memory of having seen it at a party at university is at best sketchy, and I will hold my hands up and say I have no memory of the other Fast and the Furious movie I watched for a joke, Tokyo Drift.
Right.
I did not give that the attention that it deserved. I thought friends were playing Need for Speed. I got confused. So Fast and the Furious, this is huge. This is a franchise that's so big now. I feel like embarrassed that I've not seen any of the most recent 7 or 8 installments and spin-offs.
I would have thought you'd have been all over this, possibly initially ironically and then fully committed to being into it. Much like we were talking about with musicals before. I thought your love of Fast and Furious might have come from that, but you're fairly unfamiliar with the franchise. You know of it. It's big.
I know of it. I know there are cars. There
Yes.
are cars that are powered by diesel, both Vin and the fossil fuel. And I know as well that they are absolutely livid, mad with rage they are. Furious, some would say.
Yeah.
And it seems to have become Fast and the Family. That's the new franchise. That way, because they're still going very, very fast, but everyone seems to be quite happy in talking about family now.
Right.
But I'm talking about original, furious driving. So we're going to see basically everything you shouldn't see in the safety cross code here tonight.
I want some anger. I want some speed. That's what I want to see here in the Fast and the Furious. Now, I do remember floating around in the comments on this vote over at facebook.com/CinemaSwirl. There was some rumbling that this is probably not the best one to do. But that I think if we were going to approach this franchise, one that I don't know...
You gotta start at the start, right?
I feel like you got to start at the start.
That's why I've not seen any of the other ones, because I figured if Tokyo Drift couldn't hold me, and my attention, the state I was in, then what is the fate of the Furious going to do for me then? So I feel like I need to start and build some solid foundations all over again here.
I've got a fun question for you. Let's try and list the Fast and the Furious franchise films in order.
Okay.
So we've got The Fast and the Furious.
As featured here today on Cinema Swirl.
The second one, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, and this episode is 82nd Fast, 82nd Furious. 82 Fast, 82 Furious.
The Fast and the Furious 3, Tokyo Drift.
No, I think that's just Fast and the Furious :
Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift. Which is something happens when the large intestine kind of drifts away from the small intestine. It's Tokyo Drift.
After that point where I start to get confused, is it like Fast 4 Furious?
Fast 5?
I think it's just called Fast 5.
I'm not sure if that's just because of the immaculate service I get in my favourite burger restaurant. I know Fast and the Furious 4.
Yeah.
I know there's the Fate of the Furious, which I think is number 8 because...
Oh, F8.
Because Fate. Oh, that's what that is.
Not like a country fate. Where they put on a little...
The Fate of the Furious.
And they drive around in tractors and
Vin Diesel brings the family down to the Fate,
Nice.
Final Fantasy Fast and the Furious 7 Remake, Part 2. And I'm pretty sure the most recent one was called The Ninth Fast and Furious Movie.
Yeah.
Featuring an earnest plea to go back to the cinema by Vin Diesel. Now, I know you've all heard about the... I know HBO Max, pretty cool. And I know, hey... Scarlett Johansson's pissed, go to the cinema,
So there's plenty of films in this franchise, but we're starting right at the start, which I think is only fair and only right and only true to do for this franchise.
Do you envision us reviewing all of these movies? Is that what's going on? We have to ping between swirl and swill when appropriate.
I don't know. It almost feels like it would have to be its own separate thing. But I think there is a possibility we could come back to the Fast franchise because it is so popular. It's so big. It's massive.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. And also, I really want to see some of them later movies.
Yeah.
And I feel if I'm doing something for a podcast, that's a nice kind of cushioning blow of if I feel like I've wasted 2 hours of my life, I can go, well, at least I got a podcast
got some content out of it. Yeah,
that's where I am with the Fast and the Furious franchise. What are the things that you're expecting from the Fast and the Furious franchise, given that you are, of course, you're someone who drives a fast car, right?
Drives a Volkswagen Up very occasionally. Very, very occasionally. What am I expecting from it?
Yeah. I mean, Vin Diesel, this is the first time he's shown up on the podcast, right?
Yes, it is. Vin Diesel, a real action man.
A real street shark.
I know there was another fella in this who has sadly passed away. Mm-hmm. I know that he's in it. I know Michelle Rodriguez of Lost fame is in this.
Of course.
Not really sure of anyone else.
The Lost and the Lurious.
But I don't really understand what the plot is. Are they just street racers going quick? There must be some crime element. They must be doing some good.
So you think that there's going to be a racing element?
Yeah. Well, then, come on. They're in fast cars. They're going to go fast against something.
Look, you see all them lads and they're all in their fast cars and you go, these lads know to press the fucking accelerator on 2,
Look at them go.
Oh, he's already, he knows it. He knows it. So there's a racing element. You're anticipating a crime element. Well, but you're anticipating some sort of a righteousness. Do you think that there's going to be goodies and baddies in fast cars?
It can't just be Top Gear the movie, can it? It can't just be, cars, yeah, beep, 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 power slide. There's got to be some depth
All
to
right,
it.
mate. Can you leave your spoilers for the Grand Tour lockdown off the podcast because some of us want to enjoy it still? Yeah. All right. I know you know what happens, but you don't need to rub it in our faces. Yeah.
Vin Diesel's not going to be saying, "Oh, Hammond, what have you done? I'm in a lake now, in a tank or something." It's not going to be that.
The vaccines, the lockdowns do nothing. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Tell you what, leave him in the lake. How about that? How about that for a special?
So there must be something that... Are these almost not a superhero team, but they're like a team that will do... They've got to do something other than just racing around. I'm guessing that's how they start and finish and cross the finish line. But what are they doing? What's the plot other than the cars go quick?
And as far as you're concerned, the later Fast and the Furious movies, the ones that have come off in the last in the teens, in the last 10 or so years, are they kind of just a similar continuation tone-wise and all that? Are you expecting a different type of movie from... Because I'm sure you've seen all the trailers and whatnot for these movies over the years.
I have, and I've seen plenty of goofs around the idea of it being a family, and we're together as a family.
Yeah.
And what's stronger than family?
Cars. Family's the strongest thing. Yeah, sorry. Trick question. You're not allowed in the family, Kevin. No.
So I've seen some memes around Fast and the Furious, but I still don't really know whether they are connected familiarly or...
Are you expecting rompish qualities? Do you think it's going to be kind of a thriller? It's obviously going to be action, but do you think it's going to be sneering and jeering, effing and jeffing and a bit of joking and poking? Or do you think it's going to be fast cars, fucking Fast and Furious, family on the line? Is it going to be dramatic is what I'm asking.
I think it's going to be dramatic. I think it's going to be cool in a very 2001 kind of way.
And how have the 2000... we did Mission Impossible 2 over at Cinema Swill, which is probably the most 2001 movie ever made.
Yeah.
How have the noughties held up for you in terms of nostalgia and all that?
The noughties was a wild period in terms of the start of the noughties feels very different from the end of the noughties.
Oh, yeah.
2009 is a million years away from 2001, it feels like, in terms of how culture changed. So I'm expecting in this, we're going to get, maybe they'll drive over the Matthews Bridge or something like that.
Whoa! Look, when you're dealing with the Fast and the Furious movie that took place pre-Iraq War, it's worth, bearing in mind that it's a different world, it's a different place.
Yes.
Are you expecting, futuristic technology from 2001? Because obviously this is a stylish flick, you know that much.
I will be disappointed if there's no green nitro goo that you press a button, it goes and then makes the car go quick. Okay. A little button on the side, and then some liquid goes into something and makes it go quick. I want that.
You're expecting cars to be tooled up.
Tooled up.
Souped up?
Souped up. I want there to be soup going into that engine, making those cars go quick. And it's going to be pea soup because it's going to be green. That's the colour of Fast, is green. I want there to be some green goop that's making cars
This man's driven over some arrows in his time. He knows what he's doing, right? Now, I do want to address something here for the ever-changing controversies that occur on Cinema Swirl, particularly when it comes to votes, and what is the accepted ruling of what makes it into a swirl vote as opposed to a swill vote. And there were a lot of people tutting and rolling their eyes and then voting for Fast and the Furious, wondering why the likes of Twilight are in there, and people also wondering why the likes of Transformers are in there.
Yep.
Sam, it's an easy explanation to why those two movies are in a swirl and not a swill, and it's not to do with personal tastes.
No.
What is our criteria?
Okay. Good question, because I'm not sure that we know all the time. But I think the criteria for swirl...
We reckon the criteria.
Okay, we reckon the criteria has always been, and we've stretched this definition a few times, but has always been big films. Box office blockbusters. Culturally significant films, if not necessarily good films, big films. The big film it doesn't have to be good necessarily. There can be absolutely can be bad films on Cinema Swirl.
Guys, I can't believe I have to break this to you, but sometimes bad movies make money.
Yes.
And sometimes movies that you don't like, they are successful as well. And if I thought that if we all hated them together, that they wouldn't be anymore, but they still are.
And the swirl, as much as I love the swirl, may have confused the waters, and I've confused my metaphors there a little bit, in the idea that there should be good films on swirl and bad films on swirl. Swill, and that is sort of the case. But if we were just reviewing good films on here across the board, that's not going to work, is it?
No. And I know it's difficult because the concept of cinema swill, swirling the waters to muddy them, was very, very difficult when it was cinema swirl that was being swirled at the beginning of it all. I just thought we'd point that out. Hold us to it in the future if we do something egregiously wrong. But there is a special clause. Yeah, there's a special clause which is we're big boys and can do whatever we want, and that is important to bear in mind as well. That being said, I want to dip quickly into the mailbag.
Welcome back to the mailbag. We're taking a quick dip. Here we are, taking a quick dip into the mailbag. Got a question here from Ben, who writes as follows. Hi guys, long-time listener, first-time questioner. Thank you, Ben. Kevin mentioned on a recent episode that he is a fan of, or has at least attained a culture victory in, Civilization 6.
All right, there with your fucking digs.
With that in mind, do you guys play a lot of computer/video games? And if so, what type do you prefer? Ben writes that he's a fan of strategy games, RPGs, such as Total War, Warhammer, and Crusader Kings 3, as well as the Mass Effect trilogy. Keep up the good work, Ben. So this question is lovely. It's just, what games do you like, lads?
Ooh, that's a nice question. Go in chicken last week, and this week we've got a lovely question about video games. I think my 3 favourite types of games, classic point and click. I love a good point and click, something that makes me laugh, is good writing, and has got silly puzzles. I also like a proper brain teaser, first person bit of business, your myths, your abductions, your witnesses, etc. And sometimes I want to switch my brain off and just beat people up and play games like Yakuza or some kind of dumbed down RPG. My favourite type of game, Sam, is a game that I could as easily lose 15 minutes or 15 hours in and nowhere in between. A game that needs to have a minimum of a 2-hour investment. I've learned the hard way. I'm not an online gamer. I can't commit to Monster Hunter. I'm sorry. There's simply too much to do. Peace and love. I will no longer be hunting any monsters. Peace and love.
Peace and love. I was having a think about this. And obviously my answers would be skateboarding games.
Skate 2.
Skate 3.
Skate.
The upcoming Skate reboot.
And EA's like, money's too tight for Skate. Skate.
Skate. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. SSX snowboarding.
Ooh, that's like a skating of a sort, isn't it?
Yes, and I was thinking about this film and I was thinking, do I like cars and driving, or is that not
you
really...
like fucking Mario Kart.
I like Mario Kart. I was thinking, I do like that stuff in games. I like, driving around in GTA, that sort of thing. I used to love the Burnout games.
Yeah, good times.
Burnout 3, incredible. Used to love playing that. I like speed and the physics-based control of fast things.
Would you sit down and play like a Project Gotham or a Gran Turismo? Because those games, I might as well be turning on the fucking news, mate. Yeah. Today a man drove a car.
No,
fuck off.
I wouldn't. And my brother used to be really into Gran Turismo, and so you have to pass a fucking driving test in that game. I know it's a tutorial, but come
on,
any game where you get a certificate for passing a test, come on, grow up. I want arcadey racing where things get smashed up. Yeah, I love that kind of thing, even if it's not cars. Skateboards, snowboards, even little marbles rolling around a course. I love that kind of thing. So that really got me kind of hyped up for this episode because I've realised I do have that need for speed, and of course. We're reviewing The Fast and the Furious, not Need for Speed. But, I like that lovely control of speed and movement in games. That's what I like.
I wanted to ask you this question because I feel like before we get into the movie, this is an important one to ask because you talked about the need for speed and being fast and furious, and you mentioned occasionally driving a car. Tell me your experiences, your opinions, your thoughts, Sam Chaplin and driving, because the one thing I know about you is that A, you can drive, and B, you've alluded to on the past in this podcast and conversations, not enjoying driving very much.
I can drive, but really choose not to. I don't like driving. Driving makes me very, very anxious, very nervous.
And how did you get on and learn to drive? Like tests and lessons and all that? Were you like a slow learner? Did you have some kind of scares or jolts that kind of put the fear of car in you?
Try to go the wrong way around a roundabout. I'll tell you that for nothing. Yeah. Not in a test, on a lesson, but still. He was saying, go right here at this roundabout. And my brain was thinking, what do you mean?
You go to the right, yeah.
But obviously I know that you're supposed to go round. But in that moment, I got so frazzled that I tried to go right.
Ooh. baby.
Yeah. I passed on my third driving test.
Third? Wow, well,
third.
you know what? Anytime anyone says that, I'm always very impressed because if you've ever failed it, going back and doing it again, that's something that's very, very impressive. Except for my dad, who failed his like 7 times in the 60s. He gets no respect for that. It is brought up when I've had too much to eat.
But yes, I don't like driving. I think it's more fear of kind of human error, be that my own or that of others.
Would you rather drive on your own or drive with people? Like,
Oh, God, drive on my own. Drive
Really?
on my own,
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
And have you ever had a really pleasurable driving experience where you're like, you know what? Ooh, this
Yes.
is, I like this. What's
Yes.
that? Tell me what that is.
Driving in my parents' Renault Scenic. In my early days of driving, I would borrow that. Driving to and from places like the Big Asda, the cinema.
Oh,
at
yeah.
At
I
night.
feel like a big boy.
At night on a Sunday or something like that, when the roads are fairly clear,
Yeah.
and I can just drive at the speed limit and just enjoy driving when there's not many people around. I think it's multiple drivers being around that stresses me out.
City driving ain't no fun.
No.
That's fucking tough. I used to love driving, because I learned to drive when I went to university, and I went to university in Galway. So I would the idea was that I learned to drive so I could perhaps drive home on the weekend because I was very tall and didn't want to sit in a bus for 4 hours, and I could drive it in like 2 and a bit, whatever. And I had early memories of being I'm driving, and these are like quiet country roads. That's a great feeling of like independence and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I've mentioned on this podcast before, and I'm actually a little bit worried about watching this movie because in 2000 and I want to say 15, maybe 16, I was in a car accident. And I was driving on a quiet road in rural England, and it was a road I'd driven a million times, and there was a car that was parked on it inexplicably in the middle of the road, and I couldn't slow down in time, and I crashed, and I completely destroyed the car that I was in, and I was, I didn't get hurt badly or anything like that, and it was like a year or two later, I had driven since then. I had to rent a car and stuff like that. I got a new car to move to Manchester where I am now. But there was randomly watching some TV show. I think it was like Catastrophe, that sitcom that Rob Delaney was in.
Yeah.
And he gets in a car crash at the end of one of the seasons. And it's because he's a drink driver. I wasn't a drink driver or anything.
No.
But as soon as I saw that happen, like a character I liked getting in a car crash, I immediately was just I realized I was crying and I was all shook up. And Joe was like, whoa, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. This is really fucking upsetting suddenly. And since then, not since the car accident, since then, which was like a year or two afterwards, I've actually had quite a fear of driving. And I have driven once or twice since. But I must say, the thought, I've not owned a car or driven a car regularly for around 5 years now. And I feel a lot less stressed out.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I'm a little bit scared of driving now. And I'm not sure if watching this high octane movie is going to do me any favors or not. Because at times I do miss driving. There's some very pleasurable driving experiences. But, oh boy, it has been realizing that for many people, myself included, and yourself possibly for different reasons, driving is a more stressful affair. So I don't know how I'm going to get... It's just the thought occurred to me, I don't want to end up... Look, just so you're not surprised if I start crying about Fast and the Furious...
Because of the strength of the family, you can just say that. It's like the family bond.
That is it, exactly. It's the strength of the family and the bonds forged between me and Vin Diesel. So I'm a little apprehensive about this, I've just realised.
Be careful, because that is quite fascinating from a psychological point of view. Maybe the stress of that moment hadn't been processed until you saw it represented from the outside.
And it was weird because I had a whole, ordeal dealing with it and all that. Obviously, I was in the middle of a job where I needed to drive in every day, and then suddenly I had to start, renting a car and all that. It was an awful stressful affair. I felt stressed at the time, but yeah, maybe the Fast and the Furious will heal me. Maybe I'll have to watch 9 of them, and then I can get back in a car. Look, I'm not scared of driving. I am very scared of using the green ooze that will make the car go very fast.
I hope this inspires you to get one of those fluorescent green cars with the spoilers and the things and the lights on the bottom. Maybe a DVD player in the headrest, one of those.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I want to drive around one of those cars that's a special blue light underneath. I too am very concerned about where people have come on a road. I want to find out. You know, Gordon Ramsay, he's been looking at the hotels. I'll be looking at the supposed safe roads of Britain.
So thank you so much for your emails in to cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
We did have one other message in from Sam, not me, who wrote something about things you find in the cinema from my time working there. I don't really have a great answer for that, but what I do have is the fact that when one of these Fast and the Furious films came out, I was working in a cinema, and I love little tie-in promotional guff that you get from cinemas at the time.
Especially if it's got a Predator on it.
The garage keys at the moment in my house are still a little Jared Leto Joker Funko Pop key ring that I snaffled from when I worked at the cinema. But the Fast and the Furious tie-in was these like cups that you could get for your refillable big drink. But they had to try and find a way to like make it tie into the film. So the cup was like a cylinder with two big wheels on either end of it. So it looked like a kind of
So if you tipped it on its side, it looked like
like an axle with wheels on it.
One of those weird hoverboard things that people have, right?
It was really cumbersome, looked terrible, but everyone wanted one and they sold out pretty much constantly. Same for the Kylo Ren 3D glasses that were
Wait, so do you still have your big Fast and Furious wheel mug?
I didn't get one. That's the problem. So I've got loads of, Jared Leto key rings and Kylo Ren 3D glasses because I was working on Box Office where those things were given out. I wasn't on stand, brackets, concession stand, where they'd give away the cool cups. So I missed out on loads of those. I could have snaffled some of them, but I didn't.
Well, now we have to sit around and drink our drinks out of regular cups like a bunch of fucking losers. Great.
I don't know what's going to happen in this film, Kevin. I can't work out what the plot is.
There'll be a lot of driving, there'll be some races. Who do you think will win the big race?
Vin Diesel. That's nominative determinism. Come on.
He's putting it up there. He's putting it up there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, will the fate of the Fast and the Furious and the following 8 movies and my potential PTSD all be resolved?
Whee!
Let's go do a cinema swirl very fast. Fast. Sam, initial gut reaction to The Fast and the Furious, or as it's known in Ireland, On Fast August On Furious.
Vroom, 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 vroom. So I wanted to make an initial gut reaction noise.
Sorry, those loud boy racers are outside again, revving their blooming hot motors. Get them Hot Wheels out of here. Sorry, Sam, you were saying?
That's okay. I'll be honest, that wasn't necessarily my initial gut reaction, actually. I second-guessed myself there. My initial gut reaction is just, yeah, why not, eh? That's my initial gut reaction. Yeah, why not?
I mean, it literally does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
And I will say, in the 20 or some odd years it feels like since I've seen the movie originally, I was remarkably impressed by the overall level of restraint in the movie that was mostly car chases. Yeah. And yet it still delivered car chases. Were you fist pumping the air while you were watching this? Did you laugh? Did you cry? Did you gasp? What was the general kind of emotion while you were watching this one?
Don't want to bury the lead, but I don't think I was ever bored. So that's pretty good.
Okay.
I think I was engaged with this.
We got some heavy-hitting action movies we've done in the last... It feels like since lockdown happened, we just like double-dipped into the fucking action genre over and over and over again. So there is some stiff competition here, but these men are in cars. We need to remind ourselves of that.
These are car men. They're in cars. Straight away, it's grabbing my attention. We've got the kind of cool, almost rap rock, hip-hop music going throughout this whole playlist.
That is something I think we should address from the offset, which is the fact that this movie is absolutely a pre-existing soundtrack that a movie was then kind of stitched together around, which has went on to become one of, if not, I think it is currently like one of the longest running and also most monetarily successful movie franchises, which, as we said earlier, it means that is ripe picking for Cinema Swirl and very justified.
Absolutely.
But we're 2001, 2 when this came out?
2001, I think.
2001. So it's still the time where we think that, Oh no, all sorts of genres of music are appropriate when driving fast cars. Unlike now where it's like, you're going to have EDM, you're going to have hip hop, you're going to have a little bit of, perhaps in the earlier installments, I imagine there's some drum and or bass. But the amount of new metal that is in this movie.
I love it.
I mean, you and I listened to new metal back in the day now when we would have been little kids.
Yes.
And it was far from fast cars that Fred Durst was putting in our minds, in spite of his insistence on rolling, rolling, rolling.
There weren't enough backwards caps in this. There were some, but there weren't enough.
Yeah, but they're literally driving cars like, don't want to get up today. I definitely don't want to drive no fucking car, man. Like, there's none of this like amped up petrol dick atmosphere with half of this music.
No.
It was strange.
But the music comes in straight away and we get whooshing titles coming up on screen. The titles flip over and spin around.
I did not like this.
Like
we
they're
always
being
take
souped up in a garage, you know?
It looked like it was souped up, like I got a special jacked up version of this that came out on DVD back before it should have been released on DVD and before DVDs were a normal thing. I'm talking about this seems like a 2001 DVD I found on a bus stop.
Yeah.
Because I thought I'd rent this, right, like a fucking mug,
So
right?
did I.
And when I turned it on, Sam, I thought there's something wrong with the aspect ratio because who starts in zoomed in on backwards AST and thinks that's an appropriate introduction to your franchise that is still going?
It very much felt like a film that had been uploaded onto YouTube and they thought they'd get around copyright by flipping it horizontally.
Yeah, and changing Vin Diesel's voice every few seconds as well. Like, hi, I'm Vin Diesel. I'm also Vin Diesel because it's 2001 and I'm not confident, yes.
And if we needed any evidence that this is 2001, much like when I watched the pilot of The Sopranos recently, it's a big pallet full of TV and VHS combos that are being jacked from a lorry.
Which is referred to as a real money heist as well. Like this, it don't get much bigger than this. We've combined the VHS and the tube television in one. Can you imagine? Like,
and it's a dramatic jacking straight from the off. You know, we got what are those things? Those grapple hook guns. What are they called? Grapple guns?
It reminded me a lot of, I know we've done some Bond recently, but Bond, particularly in the 60s and the early 70s, had the penchant for the harpoon gun.
Yes.
So it felt like it was halfway between a harpoon gun and a grappling gun.
Yeah.
A grappoon gun, if you will.
And in a way, a lorry is the whale of the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I understand. I thought they did a good job at establishing the lorry as being the villain of the piece because when we come to later in the movie, it is all about getting our hands on that lorry again. And like, you could tell I was up for this movie because I wrote down in capital letters, this isn't fast at all. Someone should blow this thing up.
Yes, very much so. Oh, and for our American listeners, truck. There you go, truck. But it's a lorry. Big
A lorry.
lorry.
Or, as they used to call it back in my home village, a lurry.
A lorry.
A lurry.
That's
Like,
nice.
you know, like I have a lurry and rice, please. You know, no loppadoms for me. I've got enough of my main meal. Thank you very much. I like that we got this jacker because this stuff has already been jacked, and the jacker, he himself, who's doing a high-speed jacking, gets jacked by even more high-speed jackers, and he's like, "Oh, who's this jack off over here jacking my jacks?" You know,
Jack Central over here, but the big jack in early doors, and then we cut to I think LA. We're in LA. We're at the local sports stadium.
which explains why there is this constant sepia tone. I believe that is smog and air pollution, which is why this entire movie looks like it's been filmed on Instagram Live by someone who really knows their vibe.
It feels warm, doesn't it? You get a warm sense from this movie, not in a nice cuddly way, just in a kind of like, it's hot out here.
It's not a warm movie, Sam. It's a humid movie.
Yes,
It feels like being in a hot car at times, you know. Inside the lime green car
disgusting colour.
a horrible colour. That car looks like a phone case I would have had for my 3310 back in the day.
It really does.
If I really wanted to book the system, you know? And the erroneously named Paul Walker, who should have probably been called Paul Driver or at least Paul Runner, because this lad, he's one of the fastest lads we have in this movie.
Oh, straight away we're establishing this guy, he can drive quick and he doesn't want no crusts on his sandwich. I'll tell you that for nothing.
You know what? Some days I just eat a big plate of crusts for my dinner. How about that? And that's why I'm so hairy.
Yeah.
All the things your mother said when you were growing up about not eating your crust. Did you get that? If you didn't eat your crust, it was some fucking
I think
sacrilege.
so. But that, now I'm thinking about it, must just be bollocks and that the crust doesn't have any nutritional value in it. I love a crust.
It's not like a sweet potato where like the skin has got more nutrients and vitamins in it. It's just browner. The bread has got, that's where the real nutrients are. Look, first things first, there's no nutrients in your bread whatsoever at all. It's just devoid of anything of that sort. But yeah, I always get the thick end of the wedge. It'd be, you know, if you don't eat your crusts, you'll grow up to be ugly and all that kind of stuff, you know. Or if you don't eat your crusts, the wind will change very quickly and then any faces you're pulling for fun, you're stuck with them.
But I eat loads of crusts and yet here I am. So I don't know if any of these old wives' tales play. But maybe.
Well, look, the only thing positive about me being forced to eat my crusts is that now I do eat my crusts. Whereas if they had caved and let me not eat my crusts, I'd be the man who you'd see at a train station removing crusts from a triangular sandwich. And I think that guy might be a serial killer. So it's for the best.
Crusts are great. I love a crust.
Yeah.
I love an end bit of bread. And I don't want to, you know, say bad things about people's food preferences, sure. But crusts, I love a crust.
Look, if you are on the fence about crusts, go to a sandwich shop like Upper Crust, and it's kind of like immersion. You know, you'll come out of the other side thinking, well, you know, just eat a baguette. It's basically all crust, isn't it? You know, oh, I don't like crust. I want to scoop out the innards of the bread like a fucking maggot would.
I'm just imagining now, you know, like a big French stick baguette.
Shaving it away, whittling it.
All the crust on it, so it's just...
It'd be like an old cucumber, all long and soft. It should be horrible, Sam. No one would want that. Is that what you want at home? You who doesn't like your crust? Eat your crusts.
But yeah, important character stuff established straight away. He drives fast. He doesn't want no crust.
Absolutely not. No crust for this guy. He wants his tuna. He wants his crusts on the side.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool collection of customers here that we have amongst the crustless. We've got Michelle Rodriguez, who's got really cool flame boots straight out of 2001. These guys who are referred to as speed demons or speemans, as they're also known.
Bunch of cool dudes rolling up to this place and getting very annoyed that Paul Walker's there at all, getting into a fight with him. And I thought it's because the girl who's working there, he wants to be with her but he's not with her, and so he's annoyed about that or something. This guy Vince.
Dom has to sort this all out. There's a kerfuffle. The thing about these petrol dicks is that they're also hot heads.
Yeah.
You know, it's enough for a diagnosis from Dr. House. He's got a hot head. He's got a petrol dick. I don't know what's wrong with him. We need to figure it out.
Probably lupus.
It could be lupus. It's always lupus, isn't it? But Dom there, the cooler head. Not just because there's no hair on it.
Because he's Vin Diesel and he doesn't have the hair.
He's Vin Diesel and he's always cool. And he has this lad sorted out straight away. He has it figured out. He asks for his ID and he's like, Brian Earl Spillner, are you a serial killer? And, you know, all right, anyone with a middle name is pretty much fair game for that accusation, I guess.
I think if you're known by your name including your middle name, there is something there, isn't there?
Something wrong.
Yeah.
You know, you're either upper class or upper crust. There's something wrong there, you know?
Sam Chaplin, fine. Sam Gordon Chaplin, don't like that guy. What's his deal? What's going on there?
Gordon Chaplin sounds like a no fun version of you that I'd replace you with if, like, you know, things went wrong, you know? Gordon Chaplin, like, you know.
So Dom, Vin Diesel, he wants Paul fired from his job because he's working down at the car parts shop and he's like, I've got sway in this way, I can get you fired, I want you out of there. But Paul Walker goes back to the shop for a guy called Harry who's working for, and what he wants, he doesn't want crust, but he wants nos. And
if you don't eat your nos, you'll grow up slow and timid as opposed to fast and furious.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, they've got the furious stuff pretty much down, you know?
Oh, lots of angry men straight away.
Lots of angry men. And Brian, he's got a quick turnaround as well. I wrote down, not only is he fast and furious, he's livid and lickety split as well. Like, you know, he is pretty much all the synonyms for this. And he doesn't just want nos.
Yeah.
He needs nos. And he's like, I want this one, the big nos. No, give me two. Whoa, eyes bigger than your stomach?
Get me double nos, lots of nos.
As we all know, the stomach of the car is where the NOS cylinders are put in.
Yes. And I wrote before that, like, I was listening to all this kind of, rap metal, rap rock going on. I was like, oh, this is all very Limp Bizkit adjacent. But now we get some actual Limp Bizkit.
Rolling.
A little bit of rolling. And I don't know whether this film could only use 30 seconds of any song, because otherwise they'd have to actually pay for the copyright for the song. But, like, the way the soundtrack skips around is very much bored teenager with an iPod in like 2003 or something. It's very
or bored 20-something-year-old finally has a house party with an iPod and can't really decide on the mood he wants. He looks over and he sees someone with cool flame boots. He's like, I want to impress them.
Yeah.
So he puts on a bit of the rolling, and then all of a sudden it's just the most generic EDM you've ever heard in your fucking life. Like, honestly, there were some of the songs that appeared in this I genuinely thought were like loading screen music from the Dreamcast or something like that. Just very like, or like a demo disc you'd get free in a magazine. Something along those lines.
Definitely has that feeling.
He's got his NOS, and now he's heading down here. He's agile and angry. He's swift and psychotic. And this is a big old race meet.
Just quick question. How many more Fast and Furious variations have you got?
I can't remember. I sat down to watch this movie with a thesaurus quite early on. I had a cup of coffee and a thesaurus, and I thought, I'm going to have a good time here, I know, look, I didn't want to say that I didn't think I'd enjoy the movie, because I didn't the fact that I didn't come back to it in so many years made me think, well, it wasn't that great, surely. So I did bring my thesaurus with me, just in case, it didn't live up to those expectations.
I thought of quick and cross, but then that's not really alliteration, is it? Because different letters. But,
I know, but it sounds alliteration. I think is just the sound. It's nothing to do with the letter, as far as I know.
Quick and cross.
You're thinking of alliteration as opposed to alliteration.
Yes, so they're at the street race party thing.
Everyone's a bit friendly considering how fast and furious they all are, aren't they?
Everyone's a bit friendly. Everyone's dialogue feels very much, and I've used this reference quite a few times, but very, very much GTA mission level of dialogue here.
Hector is like the guy you meet when it's like, there's all these other missions with fast driving that you'll never do, but, I'll treat you as if you're going to do all 19 of them, They're great,
It's not necessarily like really bad writing or delivery, but it's not incredible either. It's just kind of, it's fine, isn't it?
Oh yeah, of course it is very much of its time, 2001, because like one of the only female characters with any teeth, Letty, who's played by Lost alum Michelle Rodriguez, just sees a load of other women and is like, you fucking skanks,
get out.
Oh, I do have another one. Letty is expeditious and aggrieved. Okay. So we've got that.
Brian's making his way into this race, but he's not got the cash. What he has got is his disgusting green car and a disgusting pink slip. And he's got the pink slip for the green car, and he's going to wager the car in this race to get in there.
Yeah, I didn't realise the pink slip meant like kind of car ownership papers, your reg, basically. I thought that they were going to be like the car was fired or something like that, because that's pink slip in America. That's what I thought it meant.
And the pink slip on a pole or something like that.
Very much so. Yeah. Now, when they popped the hood and everyone gathered around and went, ooh, is it just me? Because when they popped the hood and everyone went, ooh, but they went, ooh, and they all leaned in at the same time. And also, it was very colourful in there, all colourful wires and bits. Yeah. My mind just then said they start eating the bits inside.
Ooh, delicious
all the colourful wires and crunchy spark plugs. I mean, it was the tastiest looking car I've ever seen.
I mean, the way the sort of street racing situation is laid out is not a million miles away from a sort of street food market, and everyone's kind of gathering around little cars.
There's a friendliness there.
Yeah.
You know what? I should say, cause given they got a little dark when the priest were out there was no sort of like, I didn't end up crying from watching Fast and the Furious.
Right, yeah.
And if anything, the welcoming nature, they played my favourite song, Roland. They had all nice people there. They had delicious cars to eat. I think I've never been more calm about driving than I had been right after watching Fast and the Furious, in spite of the action that takes place.
It's quite a friendly film, isn't it?
It is. It makes me feel that if I get in another car accident, my family would come and save me.
A couple of lines I really enjoyed here. Hey man, you can't just climb in the ring with Ali because you think you can box. When he's going to enter this race, that's fun.
Oh, like in boxing, I get it, yeah.
And Brian's like, if I lose, the winner takes my car. If I win, I take the cash and the respect. I mean, that's so video gamey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think GTA might be embarrassed to include some of this dialogue at this point, you know? Perhaps like one of the spin-off games that they gave off to another publisher or something like that. And they're sticking it to the man, an illegal street race, and that means inconveniencing pizza clerks. Now, you and I are passionate about pizza.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, I was kind of on board with the street racing, but if it means that, like, someone is ringing up a stressed out pizza delivery guy, then I feel like that is like adding to all the hurt in the world, and that wasn't on.
I think don't inconvenience local mom and pop restaurants such as Pizza Hut. I think
no, absolutely not. Like, you know, look, Mr. and Mrs. McGuinness, they set that up on a wing and a prayer, and they said, you know what, all you can eat salad and those weird little crouton things and genuinely all right pizza.
Yeah,
you know, that is the business plan here, and that's how he got started. Like, you know, you don't have to get into all of that handing out people for kissing and all that, but that's just the way the street racing's what done it. Also, as well, some of these lads genuinely look like they want to fuck a car.
Oh yeah, they're horny for their cars. They love these cars.
Oh, yeah. I didn't understand that, personally.
Gathering around them, staring at them, touching them. Go, ooh, look at it. They either want to fuck them or eat them. That's what they want to do with these cars. One of those.
Or fuck them and then eat them. I don't know, something like that, you know? I like Brian's got affirmations such as, you're going to win, and then he looks in the mirror. I'm going to win. No disrespect to the late great Paul Walker, but can you think of a more fucking neutral insert protagonist? You can see yourself here if you're a boring white lad who's driven a car once. Brian? What a fucking boring name for a Fast and the Furious protagonist.
He's generic player character, and in a way, he's playing that brilliantly, you know.
Yeah, but he should have been given a faster name like Bry instead, you know, all this half-syllable bullshit.
It's not about the names, mate. It's about how much ooze you've got in your car, how much noz your car's loaded up with, and his is fully oozed up with that sweet noz gunk in his car.
I thought there'd be someone who would be like huffing the noz by going, why isn't the car going faster? But no, he's for the car.
You see him with his noz, and then Vin's got loads of noz, and everyone's got noz. Everyone's nozzed up out the wazoo.
And we got a gamer in our midst as well. I don't know if you saw, there was a gamer there. The skills, they are not transferable whatsoever. No. If you drive your car like a video game, you probably, you know, at best, you'll be boring in video games. At worst, something much, much worse will happen to you. Like, you know, no one wants to watch the guy yielding in GTA 5.
I've got to give a lot of respect to the start of this race here. The little shot, like kind of going in to the engine, down into how all this fuel is injected into the bits.
It was like House, wasn't it? Yeah. They went in like into the guts of the car.
And I seem to remember a bit of Fight Club at the start was like that. There was some kind of going in bit, and that it's very cool, very early days of, well, not early days of CGI, but early days of that sort of thing being readily
visual
available.
Style. But before it got kind of like completely overdone to fuck. Yeah. Here, is it me or is Noz basically like car steroids?
I think so. Yeah. It wouldn't be if there was Olympic car racing, it wouldn't be allowed, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Or it's like the Russian cars would have to take their license plates off or something like that, you know? Did I make this quote up? Does someone literally say, man, he is fast?
I think so.
Okay, that's all right.
There's someone else says, man, he's furious too, and then looks at the camera. The sound design is great when you think about it. The amount of whooshing and revving and just this sequence is just noise. It's just so much noise.
You say the sound design is good, but I have a bone to pick with it because Brian, you know, eyes bigger than his stomach, Mr. I'm going to order 2 pizzas for my supper. He double dips on the noz and he keeps nozzing even though his car is full. Yeah. And the car basically has the equivalent of roid rage and explodes and rips its own face off and the car explodes. And would it have killed them? Like, honestly, would it have killed them to go, wipe out? And like, they didn't do that like once in the whole fucking movie. And I thought that was just like, honestly, Sam, I thought it was pathetic that they didn't do that.
I thought that was pathetic too. And I'll tell you something else I thought was pathetic. Well, first off, the Noz seems to send these lads into basically hyperspace, and it can't really be that fast, but they get the kind of, you see, like the air seems to wobble.
It's like hyperspace in Star Wars, isn't it? You know,
I've realised that drag racing, you know, going from point A to point B as quick as possible, there's no skill there. Well, there is. But
you tell that to Debbie Sue and all the other sweethearts. In Greece, they were drag racing, weren't they? There was a lot of skill in there, I'm pretty sure.
I guess there is, but it seems to just be a competition of who's bought the most expensive fast car, who's bought the most NOS, who can just put their foot on a pedal and press buttons until it goes. But I guess that's anything, isn't it?
It's pay to play, isn't it? Because, I feel like I'd show up there now in the old Fiat Punto, but I wouldn't be, I've never driven a Fiat Punto. It just felt like a safe pair of hands, for a street racing.
It's a fun name for a car.
No, a fun name for a car is Cinquecento. That's a fun name for a car. So I'm rolling my Cinquecento. This lad over here, his dad's giving him his credit card. He's bought loads of platinum fucking game cards.
Yeah.
So now he's got a Japanese stud of a car that's chrome and silver from the future.
It's unbalanced, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly. It's why I don't engage in online esports.
But Brian spun out, he's lost, and Vin wins. Dom is the champion of going really quick.
He is, and there's a reason why Brian fell at every hurdle, and that's of course, according to Vin Diesel, he was too busy granny shifting and not double clutching like you should.
Those sound like Ric Flair things, by the way, when you were saying them there. Granny shifting, smooth talking, roll.
Well, Macho Man Randy Savage would often accuse his arch rival Hulk Hogan of hot dogging and grandstanding. Granny shifting and double clutching seems like a level above that, like.
But Brian, not to be despondent, is sort of smiling and saying, I almost had you, man. I almost had you.
He didn't.
He didn't, but...
Fucking rubbish. You don't fucking smile your way out of this one.
He's having none of it, Dom, just slagging him off and like, no, you fucking didn't, you idiot. And everyone around him is going, yeah, you stink, mate.
And then someone's like, oh shit, crops. And then they're like, what, harvest? Like, no, sorry, I mean cops.
Cops.
And they all scar off. Cops.
Off they go.
And Dom, he gets rid of the car early on in, like, he slips off a side road, gets rid of the car, but he's much less fast and significantly less furious on foot.
Yes, this is not a film about marathon runners, sprinters.
Tapping X trying to sprint. Yeah. Can't do it, like, Get in a car, you fucking coward, come on.
Well, who comes to his rescue? It's only Brian from before who lost the race. Scoops him up in his little green wagon. And he's earning that respect. He's getting in. That's very smart from Brian here.
Yeah, so if you lose, seek out the winner and try and save him from a jam.
Yes.
That's the way to go, is what we're saying here. That's how you get forward in life.
Now I sort of think, well, did he orchestrate the jam? Knowing what we know later, did he orchestrate the jam to get in with...
Oh, I don't know, this guy. I mean, he's a little bit too perfect, isn't he? He's a little bit too shiny, is this Brian, as he's known.
Oh, and by the way, we get like a motorcycle gang surrounding the car now.
The motorcycle brothers, Johnny and Lance Tran.
Yes. And they're sort of threatening Dom and his new little mate Brian and saying, we're faster than you at cars. We're
way more
better
furious
than you. I know we're on bikes now, but we're faster than you, mate.
I thought this was like the age-old thing between, like, bikes versus cars, like that rivalry there.
Yeah.
And then some fucker pulls up in a train. Hey, you want to drag? Like, oh, don't look at him, Dom. Don't give him the satisfaction.
That wasn't Johnny Tran. That was Johnny Train over there. Who
sorry,
has got his train.
I love when Johnny Tran's looking at the nice car and he's like, somebody put in the wrench time on this one. And there's something about
put in the wrench
time.
Yeah.
I mean, it made me look at my house and, look at my IKEA furniture and go, someone's putting the Allen key time on this bookshelf that is hastily put together.
And I thought they were just sort of threatening them and then leaving. And they do leave, but then they come back moments later to just shoot the shit out of the lovely green car and destroy it.
And they said something on the lines like, you ain't seen nothing yet. And as they said that, they zoomed in on someone who was on the back of one of the bikes, right. And they had what appeared to be a jetpack. And I was like, whoa. I know this series gets kind of crazy, but we're going to jetpack, not even, I would say that for Tokyo Drift, I would have thought.
Well, maybe it comes up. It could be Chekhov's jetpack. You see that in the first film, and then it pays off later down the line. I'm hoping so.
I mean, I'm not going to embarrass myself by speculating that there isn't a jetpack in this franchise. Maybe in Hobbs and Shaw. Also, I was looking up, because I know that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson appears later on in these movies, and I tried to find out what his first one was, and I found out that he appeared in a separate car movie called Faster that has nothing to do with the Fast and the Furious franchise. And I feel like that was him flexing on the sidelines going, all right, big man, you want in? All right. He was about to release Even More Furious, and they thought, no, get him in. This is going to be messy.
The car blows up, of course, because it's full of NOS, doesn't it? So you get a nice, big, satisfying blue and orange boom, big blaze, and it goes up.
That's kind of half the joy of blowing up a car with NOS. I get it, like, you know, I need to be stopped myself from wanting to do that and see that colourful explosion. They do mention as well the big desert race later on in the movie, which is called Race War, which is possibly the worst fucking name. The worst possible name. Race War.
They say it so often.
They say it so, like, are you ready for the, like, it's guys looking at guys going, you ready for the race war? and it doesn't help as well that, like, they've made all the different gangs and the different teams are all very, like, you know, different ethnicities and all that, and they're all getting ready for the race war.
And they all get together at the end of the race wars.
Yeah,
Jesus
man, that's
Christ.
fucked up. No, thank you. Not 2021. No, thank you.
No. Now, the two lads here, Dom and Brian, they're getting a bit of bonding time because they've got to walk back from this place and get a taxi, and they're sort of becoming friends. They're becoming fast friends. It's nice.
Did you see what he calls him? Because he's got a special name because he messed up the car.
Buster?
Buster. Yeah. Buster.
Why did you bring the Buster back here? I brought the Buster back because the Buster was nice to me and helped me out.
I mean, it's a pretty big man to bring a Buster to a house party, like, you know? Whoa. I mean, that's what happened when those people brought Bill Murray to their house party. Like, who brought that Buster in here? No one will believe you. God damn it.
You were supposed to bring chips and dips. You brought a Buster. What are you doing?
And a cool little moment here where he grabs a beer off Vince, one of the hotheads in his family.
Yeah.
And he goes, you can have any virus you want as long as it's Corona. Do you remember that? The good old days when we called it coronavirus instead of COVID.
Oh, classic days. Do you remember?
And there were all these pictures of, like, look, everything's been picked bare from our local shop, but no one's bought the Corona beer. Spare a thought for the massive multi-million-dollar national corporation that is making beer. Would someone please rename the virus and buy this beer?
I mean, if it was the Heineken virus, I would have been devastated, mate. Because I don't drink Heineken. I was just trying to think of another
What
beer.
are you saying? The fucking Strongbow dark fruit virus you're talking about over here. Which literally sounds like something from Resident Evil.
Ah, God. Purple ooze coming out of these guys. So there's a woman that Brian's been flirting with, and that's Dom's sister, Mia.
There is a lot of actual family in this, as in Dom has a family, and he has actual blood relatives and people who seem to be part of his racing family. But it seems that the word family is by no means used. I don't think Dom says the word family at all in this movie.
No, I don't remember hearing it.
The cops say it later on. Oh, don't like that.
No.
Cops shouldn't have families, we were led to believe in the early days of the 90s.
And so this house party it nearly bubbles up into a sort of fight, but it doesn't really go anywhere. You know, they're all okay.
There's a bunch of hotheads.
Yeah.
A bunch of speemans, and they didn't get it all out of their system in the big drag race. Whoa! Brian's only been picked up by the police.
Oh no, our main guy has been arrested by those bloody cops. Wait a minute.
They're a little bit chummy, aren't they?
He's one of them.
Hang on a second. I recognise that. I'll find the truth. I know the ways. Drove their cars in the days of my youth. It's fucking Javert over here. Get him.
He's back. So these lot are all investigating that jacking from the start, and they're suspecting Dom and his crew as part of the jacking gang. So Brian's needs time to get into the good graces of Dom.
Is that why he's using his real fucking name? What sort of an undercover work is this, you fucking jabroni?
I think he's got a different surname, but he's still using Brian. I changed the name.
Still Brian. That's a little bit too close for comfort, like, come on.
He's saying, like, I need more time to get in with Dom. And a very good cop line is, you want time? Buy the magazine. I'm like, that's so shit, but I love it.
A really shit cop line is, come on, Brian, that guy Dom, he's got NOS in his blood and gasoline in his brain. Well, he's been fucking cars morning, noon, and night without protection. That's what's going to happen.
He's been eating them, fucking them. You're going to get some of that in your bloodstream. That's the problem. You know when Brian shows up the next day at Dom's garage with some knackered car?
Come on, Sam. We've got words for them. It's a jalopy.
A jalopy,
come on.
An old banger. A banged up banger. Where's he got that from? What is that? It's just some shit old car that he knows has got a good engine.
It's because his buster busted his car, and because the car has been busted, he owes him a 10-second ride.
Yeah.
Which means that he has to... Basically, every time Vin Diesel is talking, it's like he's got an air bubble trapped in his ear. Like he went swimming and then went right on a flight. And he's like, I'm sorry, I could like taste my cochlear fluid. He's trying to make himself get sick out his ear, basically. But I think the idea is that he's got this busted up lemon.
Yeah.
It means that he's got an excuse to be with them, to put in the wrench time, get that respect, get that trust.
More time.
But generally speaking, you know, this guy, there's two things he's averse to, and that's crust and trust, because it doesn't know, like, it feels like he's very begrudgingly being part of the police.
Yeah.
Even though the FBI are like, we can make you a detective, allegedly, because that's how the police work.
Yeah, he doesn't really seem that into his job as a policeman, as a whatever he's supposed to, investigator.
And all the other policemen are loving it. They're holed up in what appears to be a porn mansion and having a whale of a time.
I think they seized it from somewhere and now they just set it up as their base of operations. I'm not sure that's how police works.
That's what they do, isn't it?
They just have a nice swanky mansion to go
you
into.
only want to seize these cars so you can drive them and then use the drugs that you seize as well.
A very nice member of the crew, little Jesse here. He does all the engine stuff and he knows about how to use computers and things. And he didn't do very well at school, but he was good at maths and algebra, and something about engines calms him down. He's just a lovable, nice, computer-loving dweeb. And that's the kind of character I love to see.
I wrote down here, as soon as he said that, that is what I reckon was going to happen there. That's it. And this is the Fast and the Furious, not the slow and the curious little boy. No amount of wrench time is going to fix that. Now, Big Vince, he's jealous. And I will say, this movie, I'm not sure if it's a failing, but it certainly makes it interesting that it doesn't just have you like, I misremembered that, Vince, he's just the baddie in this, right? Yeah. He's the big baddie because he's an antagonistic fellow. Yeah. And it doesn't really have a clear-cut, here are the baddies, really. In it. There's not a big bad that we're chasing throughout the movie. If there's anyone's a baddie, it's Brian. Yeah. You see now what I mean, how shit that sounds. If anyone's the big baddie, it's Brian. Like, that just sounds like we're talking about a co-worker we don't like. Vince
is a sort of looming threat, and I was worried about him at this point in the film, when they're all having a nice barbecue and he's hanging around.
Oh, I tell you what I said last episode, fuck that, Vin Diesel, he's the man to ask about chicken. That looked very good indeed.
It did look good. When he's brushing on the barbecue sauce, the glaze.
A glaze, my God.
It was really cute. They're all having a barbecue together.
Genuinely shit prayer. One of the worst ever. And I've recited the Nicene Creed on this fucking podcast. Yeah. And this side's like, we give praise for fucking
petrol,
NOS and V1 engines and the Grand Tour on Amazon Prime. Get that fucking Protestant shit back to the Church of England. Fuck off. That's your songs of praise. That's what you're all doing, just singing about cars and fucking bread and whatever. As opposed to flesh and blood.
That's what we should be praying about.
Thank you.
Brian's flirting with Mia, Dom's sister, and she's like, I don't date my brother's friends because, understandably, they're a bunch of hotheads and you don't want to get involved with hotheads. But that Vince guy, he's coming in being a dickhead, being very rude. And so she rejects him in front of Brian and agrees to go on a date with Brian in front of him. And he's like, oh, no, I'm angry and tough and I don't like that this has happened. So he's still there being threatening, but not ultimately being a big bad.
What I feel this movie has missed out on is the very true reality of any situation with any of these men with their fast cars and short tempers, that anytime they leave a room or leave a house and they do a big like the fast car version of slamming a door, and we get none of that. And we know that Vince would be an aggressive rever when he's upset, which is all the time.
Yeah. Hector, who we remember from the race day, a guy who was kind of helping out.
Nice guy.
Organising. Nice guy. Approachable.
Nice guy.
He's come into the parts shop that Brian's working at and said he wants 3 of everything and he's paying cash. Wait a minute. This looks a little bit sneaky. What's going on here?
So this sends Cop Brian out on the mandatory stealth section of this video game, movie, which we are watching. And I don't know why I love this line so much, but the accusation, Hector's running spoon engines. And I was like, for real? Are you kidding me? What?
Well, there's probably spoons in the engines because they've all been gathering around digging in trying to eat all the engines. That's probably why there's spoon engines.
No, he's caught red-handed when he's snooping. He's caught by Dom and Vincent. And can you explain to me what happened here? Because Dom literally goes to me, what is this? Are you a cop? And he just kind of shrugs at him.
Doesn't even say no.
No, because I think there's a rule, isn't there? You have to go, yeah, you got me, and then you have to kill everyone. And that's if you're a cop, you have to do that.
There's a loophole, whereas if you don't say anything, you don't actually have to confirm or deny whether you are a cop. If someone says, are you a cop? And you just go,
And you just kind of shrug. It's fine.
The only thing worse than answering a question with a question is not answering a question with a fucking ambiguous at best shrug. Ridiculous.
Vince is convinced. He's convinced, because his name is
He would be.
convinced that Brian is a cop, but Dom's not fully having it yet. And the excuse that Brian comes up with is that he's there to investigate the competition in anticipation of, and I'm going to have to say it again, the race war.
For fuck's sake. Every time it's getting more fucking bad. Jesus Christ. Like, talking about a guy who's preparing under the cloak of darkness for a race war is just like, you know, that's a little bit, not in 2021. No.
And so now that leads to them go, right, well, if you're investigating the competition, let's go to Johnny Tran's garage and go look at his cars.
And there's nothing in any of them. They're all the cars are missing their engines, aren't they?
He says, what are they planning on racing with? Hopes and dreams. And I'm like, come on, mate. That's good stuff. That's quick. Quick and clever rather than Fast and Furious, that was. That was like, you know, off the cuff, funny stuff.
Ooh, Hope Streets, what are you fucking racing with? Family, yeah? Jerk.
And Johnny Tran's got all the electronic goods in his garage. He's probably the booster, right? Surely.
And Brian's like, oh, police. I caught the baddies. Now, you know, it feels like he's cruising for a bruising here at this point, like, because he's upsetting everyone. No one seems to be getting anything out of this lad. The police literally at one point are like, can you just, like, do your fucking job? Because, like, you're just driving around, like, you know, having the laugh and eating chicken and going on dates.
Oh, I just want to mention that when they're sneaking around in Johnny Tran's garage, right, Johnny Tran brings in a guy who's...
Johnny Tran's a great name.
Yeah.
I love that as a name. Yeah.
He brings in a guy who's, he thinks has, like, stolen their engines or sold their engines or something. Some guy who's done something bad.
Oh, this is where they pour oil in them.
And they're intimidating him and beating him up. They're pumping oil into his mouth. But it just looks like chocolate sauce. It just looks really quite...
don't ruin chocolate sauce for me.
In sauce. Yeah.
It looked like chocolate-coloured egg whites. That's what it was. It had a kind of a unpredictable viscosity to it. I didn't like that.
So I think Johnny Tran and the Johnny Tran gang must be the bad guys here because they've got those VHS TV combos. They're pumping oil into a man. You know, something's up here. So Brian quite rightly reports this to his bosses.
And the police also warn him. They say, that guy Dom, you think he's all that in a bag of chips, Mr. fucking family and chicken.
Yeah.
But he nearly beat a man to death. How about that? So
see pictures of it. Brutal stuff.
Think about that. You might have been eating them. You should have checked, but you didn't. You were too busy saying prayers and flirting. And Dom does have a heart-to-heart with Brian where he explains that his dad burnt out. Literally. Because his car, the stress led to the car burning. And he's like, I don't know if it was me screaming or they say it was my dad, but it was my dad died before it exploded. And I'm like, all right, this is obviously set up for later on, a fast twist, obviously, of some sort. Someone murdered Dom's dad, and that's why he's obsessed with family now.
Well, the guy he beat up really badly, was that guy involved in his dad's death, or was he just saying, I was so upset about my dad's death that I beat this guy up or something? He's trying.
It seemed to be he just beat up some lad on the bus.
Okay, right, yeah.
You know, you can have family in prison. Why don't you go there for a little bit, huh? How about that? Oh, and this is why he lives his life by his new codes. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. And that is why I'm asking you all to return to the cinema, even if it is over a quarter of a mile away. Because Scario, she's real upset, man. And we gotta bump. It was the biggest drop from week 1 to 2 of a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie ever. And, you know, I don't want that on my conscience.
For that hour and a half, I'm free, you know.
And you know I love as well the other one where it's John Boyega where he's like, you fucking idiots on your screens at home. Like, it's been a pandemic, mate. Calm down. Like, is that you at home, you fucking zombie? Why weren't you making movies?
Well, another thing that we haven't been able to do for a little while, but we're able to now. Eat out to help out, baby. Mia and Brian are in a lovely little restaurant together, having a little date. Nice.
Big date.
And they're talking about Dom straight away. If I was going on a date with someone, I wouldn't be talking about her brother, really. But
no, it'd be a bit weird. I think there's just too much media involving brothers and sisters fucking. that is prevalent now. You wouldn't want to be doing that in 2012 at the height of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
Maybe that's a positive of Game of Thrones burning out, is that people can date people's brothers and sisters and talk about them and not think about that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, but there's none of that here in the lovely heady days of 2001. But she mentions that Dom is like gravity. Everything gets pulled into him. I thought that's quite nice and poetic for Fast and the Furious.
Wait, because he's so dense, is that it? Wait.
And she can drive too. She can really drive.
Yeah, and also as well, her dad died as well. She didn't beat anyone to death.
No.
How come she's not the head of the fucking table? What's going on here with this fucking hothead, huh?
She's not furious enough, you see. Beating someone to death, that's a furious act, so you belong in the Fast and the Furious crew.
That guy's making marinated chicken. That's a head of the table meal. She's making crustless tuna sandwiches.
Yeah.
That's a fucking kiddie table bullshit. Take it away.
She's fast and reasonable, I think, is her issue. And meanwhile, during the day, it's more late-night lorry jackers.
What?
Which sounds like something that would be on Men and Motors at, like...
Late-night lorry jackers.
Late-night lorry jackers. Sounds a bit dodgy. Right. I think Brian is an absolutely dog shit undercover cop, right? He's terrible.
He's very bad, particularly because he's like, at the same time as being on a date, he's like, hey, can you arrest the entire Tran clan, if you don't mind?
Yeah, like,
they stole those things. Nothing.
The fact that he's using the same name, silly. The fact that when he gets a phone call from the cops and they're like, yeah, we're going to arrest Johnny Tran, is that all right? Just say yeah. And he says yeah. And she asks, he's in bed with Mia. She wakes up and says, who was that? And his undercover cop excuse is wrong number. What?
Can you imagine if you got a wrong number and they said, yeah, is this John O'Reilly? And you went, yes. And then you hung up. It'd be fucking curtains for Johnny boy is what I'm saying.
There's no wrong number conversation where all you have to say is yeah.
Actually, you know what? One time I did get a phone call from somebody who went, oh, I've rung the bloody wrong number, haven't I? And I went, yes, you did. And then we that was a pleasant experience though, but I didn't go, yes, and then hang up.
You got to have some better excuses than that if you're an undercover cop, surely. He's not very good at his job, this guy.
And you got to get up early if you want to catch the Tran clan because these guys, their daddy's gotten them off it because of the system and the money and the politics and the bullshit. And it says a lot about the movie and the drawing power of these cards, in spite of everything, that I wasn't even remotely curious about the backroom dealing that happened. Can you imagine the DA's office? Who put that dog shit on their fucking desk? Right? I mean, just a bunch of speeding tickets and trumped up gun charges. Ridiculous.
Yeah, they come in, SWAT teams trying to bust Johnny Tran, but it doesn't pan out because he's not the bad guy. It turns out he just likes VHS players. He just bought all of them.
It's 2001. He thinks that the technology's making a resurgence.
He's investing.
You know what that's like? In 2001, when DVDs are coming everywhere and you invest in buying a VHS TV combo, that's very much now like, all right, I'm going to buy a PlayStation 4 Pro now with this new PS5. I'm embracing the older technology.
Yes.
Fuck you, progress.
Also, meanwhile, while that busting is happening and Johnny Tran's getting arrested, there is just a shot of Michelle Rodriguez and Vin Diesel getting a bit frisky together. Not really 100% sure why it's there, because they don't really develop their relationship in this film.
They've no chemistry.
Yeah. I assume they get some later. because they're in that film.
In another movie?
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
The most romantic thing that happens in this movie is he goes over to her later and he goes, I had a dream last night, and you and I were in a beach in Mexico. And she goes, wow, what vivid imagery, great stuff.
Yeah.
And they have a kiss. Now, the actual first mention of the word family in this entire movie comes from the cop, who's also one of the baddies from Flubber, who says, there's all kinds of family, which is like, whoa, okay. This is a lot more cop-centric, this movie, than I thought. I didn't realize the values of the Fast and the Furious were that in line with the Boys in Blue.
But maybe it's early foreshadowing, get a little family mention, but not coming from Dom.
This guy, family. Fuck off with your cop talk. Get out of here now.
I do like that Brian and Dom have a little race with an arrogant Ferrari man.
Yeah, I like you called him a Ferrari man. I've called him a Ferrari man as well.
Yeah.
They smoke him.
And
I like as well that the Ferrari man, he's got a very effeminate sounding motor. It's like, and they're like shaking their heads going,
proper British bulldog of a car, that kind of, kind of Churchill would like that car.
Their car sounds like England fans.
Yeah.
And the other car is like the crying people being like, why are they being so racist? Yeah. It's a little girl.
Yeah.
And I heard, I'm sorry, it didn't go your way, the big soccer match.
It's
now, was
okay.
it?
It's all right. We still believe.
I know it's very upsetting. You managed to not reduce every single child from another country to tears.
No.
You only got the vast majority, but it doesn't count. Does it?
Yeah,
It doesn't count.
We didn't make any little Italians cry, which is a real shame.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you. There's always next time. There's always next time.
Brian and Dom now have a little meal by the sea.
This meal inspired my choice for dinner tomorrow night.
lovely.
So thank you very much. I was sitting going, I don't know what to do. And he's like, you're being kind as a meal ticket. And he's like, I can't pay for my own delicious battered shrimp. And I'm like, I'm going to have delicious battered shrimp this weekend. Thank you very much, Brian.
Very nice.
Even though you're a snake in the grass and a grass, you're a snake in a grass. Think about that for a second.
Fast and the Furious, more like Snake and the Grass, right? That's what this one
right.
is. Yeah, Snake in and with the grass.
And Brian's like, tell me your crimes. I only have 36 hours until I'll be upset.
I want to join in on your... I want to get in on what you've got going on. Let me know. But he's got to prove himself in the...
Gotta prove it.
The big race, you know.
The big race
in the desert.
The racing skirmish that's going to happen. And somehow this movie becomes more beige because they go to the desert and it's like, whoa, fucking sepia it up, baby. Wow.
Orange, baby. Everything kind of yellowy orange. Here's a question. Do people with these nice fancy cars, the kind of drag racers, do they all have $2,000 in their pockets at all times? Do they just all
I would think
always
so.
have $2,000 ready to go? Because Michelle Rodriguez has a little race with some sexist man.
And they both have their wads.
All it takes is I'm going to put in $2,000. He's like, I got $2,000 right. They've all just got $2,000. They're just full of $2,000. Little rolled up $2,000.
I'd like to think for inflation what it's like to enter a race like that now.
Oh, it'd be pricey.
Yeah. 1 second.
You're looking it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
The inflation calculator here. I'd like to thank our good friends at thedollartimes.com
Thank you,
for
Dollar
this
Times.
definitely real answer.
Yep.
$3,068.28.
Okay.
Which in America, where it's pretty much as it stands, it's the third act of Les Mis in terms of how much everything's expensive at the moment, then yeah, I buy that, you know?
Yeah. So anytime they say $2,000 in this film, really think of that as $3,000.
And $68.
And $68.
So that's a lot, like.
She wins, and that's a good victory for her. Fantastic. Now, the guy who doesn't get such a great victory is...
Beep, beep. Can I drive my little car? No, whose boy has wandered onto the track in a Sega rally car?
It really is a Sega rally car.
It's much different from the bowling alley doing a race for real, little boy, are you sure?
But it's his dad's car as well. He's probably wearing his dad's jacket, driving his dad's car.
And he's taking on the one and only Johnny Tran, man. Like, he's screwed here.
No.
And he blows his nose too early.
Yeah.
And the Transter, he just makes it out of there, you know, easily beats him.
Happens to us
And
all.
the little boy, he drives off, assumedly, to Shameville.
Right, off I go.
Do you notice as well, at this random moment where Vin Diesel, his voice being like a fucking kaleidoscope, suddenly became Adam Sandler, where he's like, go get your car. I'm asking him.
Johnny and Dom, they're having a little bit of a fight about all this swap business. He thinks that
Fisticuffs.
he was involved in that or some...
Did you ever play any kind of a game like Go-Go's or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh where there was like keepsies and stuff like that, scuffles?
Yeah, and people would just not adhere to those rules.
No honor amongst children in 2001.
This character who's driven away, he is basically a little boy who was playing for keeps and couldn't keep up with the big
Keep
boys.
driving. That's what you have to do now. Keep driving.
Yeah, if you play Pokemon with someone, it's for keeps, and you lose. Just keep driving. Just drive away.
Yeah, you run away. If they lose, you just yank the link cable and run as fast as you can. You know, and the other Game Boy will be flicking behind you like you've just been married.
Yeah.
Letting off sparks. Pikachu going, eh!
Now, Dom and his crew, they head off to do some shady nighttime business.
Oh, they are involved in dirty deeds.
And Brian, again, terrible undercover cop. I was going to say blows his load. That's not what I mean. He blows his cover and says that to Mia, I'm an undercover cop and I need to know where they're going. And I'm like, mate, why have you... I don't know.
Because I want to arrest them. Jesus, everything is a question with you.
But it's so that Dom doesn't get killed by either truckers or cops. He's like, I'm a cop. I'm going to save them from that. I don't want them to get hurt. So I'm a cop. I need to find them. You need to tell me where they are. Otherwise, they'll die.
Their heisting and jacking goes pretty poorly this time around.
Oh, God,
And
yeah.
the real villain in this movie is that truck driver whose face you never see.
No.
He's really, you just see him like reloading a shotgun. He's an ominous fucking figure.
Terrifying.
It really reminded... Have you seen that the Steven Spielberg movie where it's just like the guy's been chased by a big scary truck for the whole movie?
No.
And that's just it. You never see the driver. It's just a truck
Oh.
keeps chasing the guy no matter where he goes. And it's fucking terrifying.
Does sound terrifying.
It reminded me a lot of that. The truck has got the Green Goblin for a front.
Yes,
as far as I know.
I really love how badly wrong this heist goes. In a kind of calamitous way. Like, Vince is there.
He missed all the QuickTime events, Vince. That's what happened here.
Yes, he's using his little grapple hook, but he gets hooked onto the truck and then his arm gets stuck and he's kind of flailing around, stuck to this truck with a man shotgunning him from above.
He's got all the pellets caught in him and all that.
Dangling around.
And Dom can't save him. And Dom is like here in his car and he loses like 2 wheels and he's still driving. And there's like 2 other cars. He's like, no, go back and save Letty.
Yeah.
Because only me with no wheels can do this. It's fucking the hubris of the man ridiculous. Letty crashes.
Yeah.
And then we have Brian and Mia showing up, saving the day daringly, might I add.
Yeah.
Very daringly. And this was a high octane stunt work here.
Yeah.
This felt like there was a tangible sense of ridiculous speed. It was awesome. It was really, really good. And it is held up. They didn't lean into like CG or goo goo gaga shit. It was proper
Stunt.
fast car stunt. And I like that.
I wrote a similar thing. I put great stunt work, great sound work. To be fair, this sequence was very, very tense and very gripping. In the same way that you'd be gripped to that truck if you shot a grapple hook into it. I was gripped.
The only downside of it, I will say,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's a failing of the movie or if it's just because this bit is so particularly good, but I felt while watching this, I didn't need to have seen the hour and 20 that came before it to appreciate what I was seeing on the screen at that moment in time.
Yeah. It would just be good straight away. You don't really need all the establishing stuff. I get what you're saying. No.
Probably not.
But it's not like the hour 20 before was necessarily bad.
No, it's just that, this was, like, the last thing I was thinking about in this scene was, will they find out he's a cop? Which they do. They find out that he's a cop.
Well, they find out that he doesn't eat its crusts, which is a worse crime to me.
Classic cop move right there. That's why they love donuts.
Yeah.
There's so few crusts on a donut, they cut out the middle as well, just to be safe.
And Brian, he has to reveal his cop identity to get in emergency medical care for Vince.
He goes to Dom, he says, no more running. And Vin goes, I'm not running. And I'm like, who are you?
We had plenty of fast, but when that I'm a cop reveal comes in, we get some real furious, just on face alone, from Vin Diesel there, doing his like, oh, you're confident, but I'm trying to save my friend.
I kind of feel there would have been some real emotional weight and heft if they managed to actually somehow muddy the waters or make you as an audience member question if Brian was actually a cop or not, or there was like, maybe he was a double agent, because it feels like this is probably the most emotional and the best drama you get in the movie, but it's kind of like you feel like they're all idiots for not figuring it out already when he basically asked him and he was like, I'm not a cop.
So they've split up, the gangs managed to get away, Vince is getting medical care, Brian's just sort of stood there like, okay, I've lost my friends now because they know I'm a cop.
This next part here where we get the drive-by that happens and young Jesse gets taken out by the Tran clan. This was the first of several sequences that had really weird, like, trying to be Matrixy but just changing enough requisite bits so that they couldn't get sued.
Yeah.
But it really, 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 really felt janky. This was like 2001. This reminds me a lot of Mission Impossible 2, of like, all right, someone got slow-mo for Christmas,
Yeah, as much as I loved like certain bits of sound work, certain bits of stunt work, some of the way this is filmed is really great. Any use of slow-mo seems a bit...
It's janky, I thought.
Yeah, a bit weird. They add extra like blur to it sometimes as well, and it just...
It goes like frame by frame, like it's an Injury Lawyers for You ad or something like that. I didn't like it.
Never quite carry it off. But yeah, I mean, the drive-by is sad, and little Jesse, he comes by and says, I'm sorry, I'm scared. Bang, 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 bang. He's dead now. He's gone.
Get a big chase.
Chasing after the bikers.
Age-old story,
Yeah.
you know? It's like cowboys and aliens. It's cars versus bikes.
Yeah.
And I did like when there was a part where one of the bikes went flying off a very large height and then he landed all the way down and went, oh! And he kind of like bounced off crotch first. Like he shattered his pelvis and he it was like, just kill me now because this is the worst bollocks ever.
Have you seen the Olympic skateboarding thing where a guy fell off and hit his knackers on the rail?
No, because all of the Olympics is behind a paywall now because we live in a hellscape.
Yes. Discovery Plus. Oh.
Don't waste your time on Discovery Plus when you can be going to patreon.com/cinemaswirl. Much like the BBC, we have no rights for the Olympics.
Where we're just uploading all the videos of the Olympics behind the paywall.
The only difference is we're not going to just genuinely hope you don't notice. We'll just not mention it.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't got any Olympics. So, big final chase. One of the guys goes down.
And Vin's in his dad's car as well, with that big hot rod motor on top.
That's important. That's emotional. You know, that's the car he fixed up with his dad, and his dad died, and he's never driven it, and now he's driving it.
I don't know why, but my mind kept telling me, anytime someone's like, this is my dad's car, this is my granddad's car, or me and my poppy fixed this car up.
Yeah.
The idea of them trying to start it and it being like, and then like, no, dad. It's. I know it's dark, but it's genuinely very funny to me. Like the idea that you're tying in mechanical failure or success to the fucking spirit of someone long since deceased who has no sway over it. And it's my relationship with my father is going to change depending on if this catalytic converter is going to play ball. You know what I'm saying?
We didn't get enough stuff of like a lucky key and like kissing the key and be like, this is my dad's key for the car. Oh, come on, baby. And then it just doesn't start. That would be funny.
This is my dad's famous Pine air freshener. It don't smell of pine anymore because it got singed. But I smell it every time I get in here.
Look, Brian fully shoots, I think, Johnny Tran.
Bam.
Yeah. Whoa, mate.
This guy, like, he kills people who have already been arrested and have already been let off. Can you imagine the muck that's been sprayed across the DA's office? Brian, you might as well went in there and just spread cheeks and diarrhea all over the DA with that. Like, ridiculous. Just, no. The DA's had it. I just want a spin-off where the DA is like,
How are we going to fucking sort this? What have you done? Jesus Christ.
He was going, how fast?
I'm furious.
I'll show you furious now.
And look, final big sequence here, which I love. I love how stupid this is. I love that the film, this actually it clings onto some sort of sense of reality a little bit. But then it all comes...
Really?
Well, no. But I guess it's believable up until the point where Brian and Dom, a police officer and a hijacker / street racer, pull up alongside each other and decide that they're just going to have a race now, a kind of symbolic race,
a drag
race. It's funny.
Now I thought this was very, very foolish because obviously Dom is in his dad's car, which even though it's got a nice chopper on it,
I'm in
it
my
has
dad's
not
car. Vroom. Sorry.
Sam, I'm pretty sure you have to pay her on Cameo if you want to get that, like. But he's in his dad's car, vroom, but there's no Noz in that car.
No.
And I'm thinking, you're bringing an old jalopy to a Noz fight here. This fucking car that Brian's in is fucking geeked up to the max with every day one DLC patch you can imagine. This thing is ready to go. And I think, how's he going to match the speed of the Noz? Easy. He does a wheelie at the start.
Does a little wheelie.
Which inexplicably gives him a big boost, like it's Mario Kart or something, you know?
It's very funny that his car does a wheelie. It's very funny that they're racing to the railroad tracks.
We get that janky slow-mo again. I didn't like that,
loads
though.
of it. It's drenched in that slow-mo. But there's a train coming and they're racing towards the tracks. We get a little shot inside of Dom's car and it looks like his old man's car's going to fuck up because it's old. He's brought a banger to a MASH fight and that's not what you should be doing, but he's... he's going for it. The hazy slow-mo, is a bit crap and gross.
I just feel like this stunt must have been such a fucn... Even if this train is CG'd or whatever, I don't know, just the big kind of... that zip.
It not be genuinely
an actual train. No, it's a stunt train. It's okay. It's very safe.
Yeah.
I've driven this stunt train many times. But I feel like, it was doing a disservice to the drivers of...
Right, yeah.
I felt it was so removed from the actuality. Like seeing two cars just go... And I think that's the problem with drag racing, is that it's over so quickly,
10 seconds.
that maybe for a climax it isn't the best thing.
No.
But it feels like it was almost like it was filtered to death, this last little bit. This was not as fast or as furious as I would have liked personally.
I wonder if maybe, because it didn't look like it was actually filmed in slow-mo, if you know what I mean. I think it was like the original footage slowed down.
Yeah, they didn't have the camera with the requisite frames per second.
I hope there is a version where it's just at normal speed and it just is like that, and this big climax is just gone in an instant. In a way, in less than 10 seconds.
So they both make it, but Vin gets smacked with a truck.
Yeah.
We have a final face-off, and Brian, of course, lets Dom go because he's a fucking dirty cop, yeah? He should be put in prison, and he should be put in Gen Pop as well, so they break his legs.
Yeah, he gives him his car. His dad's car's all fucked up because it's hit a truck. And so Brian gives him the keys to his car. I owe you a 10-second car.
It's all emotional. He's like, Dom, I owe you a car, and then he turns to the police, and I owe you an explanation. Well... It's a crazy thing.
I guess none of us are getting what we wanted off you.
I need names, license plates, if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
And then that's basically the end.
We set it over to Ja Rule to end 2001.
Ja Rule! Oh, yeah!
Guess what? Ja Rule was in the house.
Yes,
so he was.
He was.
And he was in my house when I was listening to the Bish at the end of this movie as well.
Did you catch the post-credits bit, by the way?
Oh, no, there was a post-credits bit. Excuse me.
Kevin,
I missed this both times. What
I
happened?
implore you to go back and watch it. But basically, we cut to Dom in Mexico, down Mexico way, driving around
Excuse me.
in his little car. And we play the audio again of him saying, I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Nothing else matters. Those 10 seconds or less, I'm free. Can't do a Vin Diesel, but it's just that. It's just him going around Mexico looking happy.
But in fairness, in 2001, not even Vin Diesel could do a Vin Diesel. He was a young little man in this, and it was very nice
They all
indeed.
look so young, don't they? But it was a long time ago. And that's our film. That's The Fast and the Furious.
I had a much better time watching this than I thought.
really
I
nice
feel like
time.
this is one of these things that when something is very, very big in a very time period, I don't think there was much irony about the love of Fast and the Furious when it came out originally.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've come around to it now, and I feel like I don't have to pretend to hate it because I'm a fucking stroppy, negating teenager.
Yeah.
And I had a fucking romp watching
Great
this.
time.
It was very good. And I will say, given how mad the later ones are, part of me thinks you and I watching Fast and the Furious 9 straight after this with no context
Would be quite funny.
would be the funniest fucking thing in the world.
Hey, I'm up for it. If not immediately after this, at some point soon, I think it would be
At some
fun.
point
Yeah.
in the future, however, even though it breaks all of our rules
Yes.
for doing it on either possible show. But Sam, most importantly, it sounded like you had a good time.
had a great time.
I didn't need to do much convincing this time. It felt like you just had a good
I had
time.
a good
Full
time.
stop.
I had a fun time. I wasn't bored. I was interested. From a technical perspective, you've got to remember that this film is doing what it set out to do, and it's doing it pretty well. You know, all the race stuff.
I mean, for 2001, I was expecting it to be looking, a lot rougher than it did. And other than some questionable soundtrack decisions, and it is literally only 2 times they go for that awful slow-mo, and it's right at the end. But it's fairly, for something that you would assume is just kind of by the numbers and, turn a wheel and make another Fast and the Furious movie, they don't go the obvious route and it just being like, we're the baddies and we're the rival racing team.
Yeah.
You'll never beat us. We're the fastest. It is actually, they try and go for the non-obvious route, and it does make it a little bit clunky, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But it was pleasing to my eyes and ears, and it made me kind of go, you know what, if I ever wanted just to stick on a dumb, fast movie, I'm pretty
can't go
sure
far
any
wrong.
of the other 90,000 of these would probably fit the bill.
I think so.
I don't know how indicative this is of the rest of the franchise, but I know that Tokyo Drift didn't hold my attention long enough for me to make it through the actual movie.
Okay.
So I know there are peaks and valleys, but I thought this was good.
I thought this was good.
Genuinely
It's
good.
made me curious for the rest of the franchise. It does what it sets out to do, and it does it pretty well. All the race stuff looks cool. The performances are okay. Like the dialogue is okay, but that's not what you're coming in for, really. You're coming in for fast cars, big driving, and it does that really well.
And I'm sure if you actually loved driving,
Oh, you get a kick out of this. Yeah.
you probably get an extra kick out of it. But I must say, there is an inclusivity of it that you don't need to know anything or appreciate anything about fast cars or racing. They present it as simply as a plebeian such as myself would assume it is,
fact,
knowing nothing.
When they say NOS, I think someone in the background goes, nitrous oxide. Like, I think there's a little thing
Thanks for that.
to help you
Thanks
out.
for that.
To let you know what everything is. It's an easy easy enough film to watch. It went by quickly. It went pretty fast. And I wasn't furious watching it. I had a good time. I enjoyed it.
And are you fast and curious about the other
I'm
installments?
fast and curious about the rest of it. I had a good time. Did you have a good time? You had a good time? We all had a good time.
Good time. It was great. It was an action movie, but not the typical type of action movie that I would have went for historically. I usually don't go for a fast car chase flick, and I feel like I'd be more than willing to watch another one of these on a rainy day for
I'll tell you
sure.
what this is. This is a nice fast food burger of a film, you know?
Yes, it is.
It achieves what it needs to achieve, and it's tasty, and I enjoy it.
And when you find out about the carbon emissions, you'll be furious. Well, Sam, I have to ask you at this point then, what is your star wipe rating for The Fast and the Furious?
Now, I had a rating in mind, but I think that rating is a little too low. But I think the one above is a little too high. So I'm going to dip into half measures.
Okay.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time. And
No, quarter measures, seriously?
okay, Fast and the Furious, The Fast and the Furious, 3.5 star wipes.
You heard it here fast.
Oh, thanks for listening to another episode of Cinema Swirl. This episode was produced by Kevin, edited by me, Sam, and I also did the music. If you want to support the show, then patreon.com/Cinema Swirl is the way to go. If you want to follow us on the socials, we're at Cinema Swirl on Twitter and facebook.com/Cinema Swirl on Facebook, which is where our votes for episodes take place. If you've got questions, queries, comments, or anything else for the mailbag, then send it on over to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Please do keep recommending the show to your friends if you think they'll like it, or even if you don't think they'll like it, just recommend it anyway. Oh, and if there are any bits in recent episodes that you think would make particularly nice video clips, you know, the kind of thing we've had on our socials recently, then send us a tweet and let us know. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers, bye.